It's round number 11 of the BETFRED Super League, and it's time once more for the most comprehensive build-up to this week's action. On tonight's show, the Saints return home to the Brewdog Stadium wounded by their cup exit to the Wigan Warriors. They face Huddersfield, who will have a giant task on their hands to pile more misery on poor Rolly St Helens. Friday sees two big head-to-head starting at the DIY Kitchen Stadium. Daryl Powell's side is bolstered by the returning back rowers, including Jez Tavanga. As the Dragons also see a returning Ben Garcia, does anyone else see that this one could get a little hot under the collar? We do. Then the stage is set for a battle of the Super League heavyweights with eyes on the grand final and glory. Wigan Warriors will look to back up their Challenge Cup route. Standing in their way though are the league leaders and pace setters. Get ready for big hits, knockout performances and bells to be rung. Then, on Saturday, we see a triple header starting at 3 p.m. as two sides at the wrong end of the table and eager to get one up on the other go head-to-head. Every struggle is a step towards glory, and this one should be a close one as the Knights take on the Tigers. Then, at 5 p.m, the highly entertaining and attacking forces of the Leigh Leopards and the champions Hull KR collide. Last year, the Leopards got one over on the Robins with Josh Charnley scoring a brace, but this year, KR have Mikey Lewis and they will be out for revenge. At 6 p.m, it's off to France as the Challenge Cup lane Wolves take on Toulouse Olympic. Can the Wire put their Cup Blues behind them, or will Toulouse make it a French double over the wire on foreign shores? And then finally, it's over to Wadsall as we see the second clash of the season between Bradford Bulls and Hull FC on Sunday. The Bulls were close to getting an opening day win at the MKN, and they're bolstered by some key attacking players returning. Andy Last will be in for a tough afternoon. In-depth analysis, passionate debate and round 11 predictions. It's time for the Captain's Run. It is indeed time for the Captain's Run. It comes round very, very quickly. And as you can see on the screen, we are joined for the first time this season by Simo, one of our Castleford Tigers members. Hello to Simo. How are you, mate?
Hello, Dave. I'm good, mate. Are you, buddy?
Very, very well indeed. Of course, Super League back after the Challenge Cup. It's going to be interesting to see how the losing teams fare and can the winning sides go on to further glory. We'll be finding that out over the course of the next couple of days. Before we go through each individual team, let's take a look at the table. Starting at the bottom there, you can see Huddersfield Giants still bottom of Super League. Then it's the Tigers, Toulouse, Bradford Bulls, the York Knights in 10th, then it's FC in 9th. And then, as you can see there, in 8th is the Dragons in 8th. And, of course, they're going up against the team that sit above them in 6th there, Trinity this week. 7th, of course, is the Leopards. They're going up against the Robins. Warriors, they're in 5th. The Warrington Wolves are in 3rd. Saints are 2nd. And, of course, the Leeds Rhinos are in 1st. And as you can see there, both Leeds and KR on 5-game winning streaks going in to round number 11. It should be very interesting indeed. KR, very, very high level. Simo, KR appear to be rising again.
Yeah, they seem to have hit form at right time. Obviously, they had a good result in Challenge Cup, and hopefully they can now take that back into league this week, and we'll just see how they get on. But yeah, I think that they've got good halfbacks. They seem to have got right personnel back. I think obviously they're going to miss probably James Batcher a little bit, but it's next man up mentality for Willie Peters. He doesn't seem to. He's very level headed in his presses, and he's a pretty cool character, isn't he?
He is. It's going to be fascinating this weekend. Right, then, without further ado, as we always do it on the Captain's Run, we'll go in reverse order. That means if people join the Captain's Run on Friday or Saturday, of course, they can still listen to the games that are yet to go at the start of the show. And, of course, we work backwards from there. So, of course, that means we're going to start with the Sunday game, which is, of course, the Bradford Bulls taking on Hull FC. And let's remember, in round number 1, the Bulls very, very nearly got a triple of shot results off the back of course, York and KR and Wakey against Toulouse. Very, very close indeed. This one, of course, no official team news, but we do know that the Bulls have got some returnees. Those returnees, Jaden Okunbo is back, as well as Aribi Duro. But these three are the key ones for me. Wonga Blake, Jaden Nicarima and Ryan Sutton all return for the game this week at home against FC. Simo, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, Wonga Blake, as you will remember, was our player of March. He got off to a phenomenal start in the season. He's played 6 times from this season, scored 5 tries, 2 assists, 2 breaks, 22 busts, offloaded 12 times, 75 carries for 546 metres. To have Blake back in the centres will be a major bonus for Bradford Bulls this Sunday.
Yeah, it will. Obviously, Kurt Haggerty alluded to it earlier in his presser that he's got a big 5 returning. So yeah, I think, like I said, Wanga Blake, whatever you want to call him, in centres, I think he offers that strike, and I can quite easily see why St Helens brought him over to country to start with. Obviously, didn't work out to St Helens. He dropped down to Championship, hit some form in Championship, and Bradford have stuck by him, and he's repaid the faith in Super League. And like I said, stats speak for this end. 6 appearances, 5 tries. It's not a bad strike rate on that Bradford edge.
No, not at all. Really, really good. They'll be absolutely delighted to have him back, and rightly so. I think he could be a real factor for him come Sunday. They're going to have their hands full with him. And of course, Jaden Nicarima only played twice this season due to injury. The game that stuck out for me was the game against Huddersfield. He was exceptional, absolutely exceptional that night. And people will point to Huddersfield in terms of them, where they were at that point. But there's no doubt Jaden Nicarima showed his real quality and what he could bring to Bradford Bulls on that occasion. Couldn't back it up, of course, the following week when, of course, I think it was yourselves. Was it yourselves?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was yourselves, wasn't it? Come back it up against the Tigers, of course, and that was a big win for Castleford. But there's no doubt Jaden Nicarima on his day will add so much to Bradford's go forward.
Yeah, that's correct. He very good 6. Obviously, when Salford were in dire straits, I think if Jaden Nicarima wouldn't have commanded a quota spot back end of last season, I think there'd have been multiple clubs lining up for his signature. And I'm just glad that he's got another shot at Super League. To be fair, obviously, what happened at Salford were not necessarily his fault, or we'll not go into that. But yeah, he's a very astute player, and he'll get Bradford round field, that's for sure.
And of course, when it was announced that Ryan Sutton was coming back to Super League, there was a lot of eyebrows that were raised due to his injuries concerns down in the NRL. But I actually think he's proved his worth really well. 7 appearances this season, keeping the ball alive. I think he's tackling, and I think what's interesting for me about Ryan Sutton, I mean, if you look at his tackling stats, they're very, very good. 309 tackles, 94% efficiency. Is that affecting his go forward a little bit? It possibly is, and I think that hopefully, if he can get a bit of assistance around him, maybe keep a little bit more energy in the legs, I'd expect that Ryan Sutton could be more effective going forward. But that said, I think his all-round contribution in the games that he's played for Bradford has been immense.
Yeah, he's a workhorse, he's Ryan Sutton, and to play nearly, I think it was about 10 years in NRL from post leaving Wigan. We all know, Dave, that the NRL is such a far superior competition compared to Super League. So yeah, I wasn't surprised that Bradford had brought him back, and I'm also not surprised that he's been playing well. And I think you're completely right. I think he probably has been doing a little bit too much work in defence, and that's, like you say, it's took a bit of go forward in his legs off. So yeah, hopefully, like, we can see that the second rowers and pack round him can maybe share that load out in tackling, and they can get a bit more go forward out of Sutton, and hopefully it'll be this week against the FC.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of FC, what we do know about all FC is that they've got Jeremiah Matautia and Ethan O'Neill coming in from the Leeds Rhinos. They're going to be there on loan to bolster their back row in this game. Do you see, I mean, obviously, when you look at these two teams, I think the fact that, yes, these 5 are coming back for Bradford, and that will improve them. I think Doro, for me, I think Doro, I'd like to see him kick on. I really would. Ockenbaugh on the wing has been a handful when he's played on the wing. I thought he started the season well. We already mentioned the 3 that we had on screen. I just still think that FC have got a bit too much in terms of when you look at it from a pound for pound perspective. And of course, they've had less. I mean, they've had probably less disruption injury-wise, FC, than Bradford. That might just get them through. But I'm on the fence. It's one of those games this where I wouldn't be surprised if Bradford got the win, but I am edging a little bit towards FC. Where are you seeing it?
That is a very good question. This game could go either way. Now, if FC played like they did last time out against Toulouse, obviously there were a ridiculous stat like 50 odd play the balls in Toulouse's 20. I think if they'd have still playing now, they'd have only just probably scored. And I think with Ethan O'Neill signing this week, I can probably see Zach Hardacre going into centres, out at back row. I think this game could quite easily swing a 6 point, 10 point margin either way. If I'm going to have to pin my master on probably a win, then I think with both teams having a week off, I think the big five that they've built of Bradford coming back may just be that little bit rusty. So I'm just going to pin the win on FC.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm just really torn. I'm really torn. I think Nicarima needs to sparkle. He really does. But when you consider in terms of the Bulls this season, when you look at it in terms of the wins that they've had in Super League, they've all come at Odsal, and that's where the wins have come, because they're probably the pick of those being the one against Catalan. 28 points to 10. Do you know what? Just to go against you, I'm going to go Bradford, and I don't know why I'm going Bradford. I mean, this is probably why you're ahead of me in the Super Brew, mate. But I'm going to go Bradford just because they have got 3 wins at home. The home form has been pretty good when you consider it's only Leeds and OKR, the 2 teams that have gone to Odsal and won, which that's there's no disgrace in that. The 2 teams that have been KR, the quadruples, and Leeds sitting there at the top of the table. So I think at home, they do look a good side at home. They're using Odsal to their advantage. So I'm going to go Bradford by 8. And obviously, I'll probably lose, but there you go. I'm going to show Bradford a little bit of love this week. Good luck to Bradford. Right, okay, we go into the game at Toulouse. Warrington Wolves, of course, going down to KR in the Challenge Cup. How will they bounce back? It's, of course, Toulouse at 12th, Warrington a 3rd. Their Super League form for Warrington has been very good. I mean, the interesting thing here, of course, these 2 teams met, as if you remember, back in 2022 when Toulouse Olympic was last in Super League. And this is quite interesting. From that game at Warrington, and remember that game at Warrington were trailing at halftime. They were facing, really were staring relegation down the camera. They led by 4 at our time and went on to win 32-18 and had a monster second half to put that to bed. But the interesting thing is, we're only talking 4 years ago. The only players at Warrington that have survived that team is Ashton, Curry, Harrison and Walker. Of course, Fewless and that were around as well, but who played that day, that's it. In terms of Toulouse, from players that played on that fateful night at Halliwell Jones, Ashel Bott, Machuja Som, Anthony Marion, Joe Breferton, and Lambert Belmas. That was it. So that's how much change has gone on in 4 years at both Warrington and at Toulouse, when you consider the amount of personnel that has changed from the 2 starting lineups that happened at the Halliwell Jones Stadium. Albert Opuati goes into this having scored in his last 2 Super League outings for Warrington. Toulouse, this is an interesting stat, Simmer. What do you make of this? Toulouse against they played, I think they played 4 or 5 of the current top 6 this season. And they've conceded 32 points, an average of 32 points when they've come up against current top 6 teams. So current top 6 teams in Super League now that they have played this year, they've conceded on average 32 points. And of course, Warrington are sitting in the top 6. Do we read much into that?
A little bit. I mean, obviously, Toulouse were okay in the last outing. Obviously, the beat FC. No disrespect to FC, but they were absolutely shocking in that game. And I think Wire could potentially be a different beast. Now, obviously, Wire's got to travel over there, and I think that Wire could score some points in this game. So, yeah, I'm I'm pretty confident that the Wire will have a flyer in France.
Yeah, I mean, I think what surprised me, and I don't want to remind you of this, but of course they've only won one game at the Ernest Welland this year, and that of course was against yourselves, 24 points to 12. And I thought that that night they were good. Equally, you were all over the place. If memory serves me right. Since then, the home form. Yes, all right. You look at who they play. Like I said, they played Wigan. They've lost comfortably there, 36 points to 16. They played Saints, lost 30 points to 16. They played KR the last time they were there, and they lost 46. Now, like I said, they're averaging 32 points against those top six teams. So it's not like the Wallen has been a fortress for them. They're not winning there, are they?
No, they're not, and obviously French teams, as years have gone by, are normally known for their home form, and then on road they are patchy to say the least. So yeah, it's not been a fortress for them, but like you said, the caliber of opposition that they faced at home, barring the woeful Tigers. They've not had Robert Green, shall we say. I think it's also probably a little bit of a, we're now getting 10, 11 rounds in this week, this week. And I think now we're starting to see the difference of the three promoted teams that probably didn't really get a fair rub at Green way, being told that they're coming into Super League. And I think that the next third at season, I'll break it into two thirds. So the first third at season we've done with, I think going into second and third at season, I think that the three promoted teams will start to struggle, and we'll see rest at clubs pull away in table.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think for me, I keep going back. I think York have shown the most resilience for me. I think we'll get to that game, your game later. I think that's going to be a real good game on Saturday. I have to say, the way York have been performing in this season, that's going to be interesting when we get to that one. But let's take a quick look at the squads. These are they. Warrington, of course, still no Kai Taylor for the Warrington Wolves. Of course, George Williams, a long term now absentee. No James Harrison still as well. That's a blow for Warrington in there. Danny Walker, of course, is still in the side. No Holroyd still. Ben Curry, Sam Powell, Toff Sipley, Liam Byrne, Geordie Crowther, Ewan Irvin will, of course, play 6. James Bentley, Joe Philby, Maxwood, Josh Smith, Zach Gardner. Good to see Zach back from injury. He's now in the 21-man squad. Of course, who can forget his performance in Catalans last year? Kalepi Tanganoa and Lachlan Webster. That's the Warrington Wolves. As for Toulouse Olympic, Oshel Bott is in the side. Good to see Lacan there. He's a handful on his day. Hands as well. Tucker will also be a handful for Warrington. But when you actually look at those two sides side by side, it's hard to see Warrington not winning this game. Not to say that they're going to win it, but it does look on paper a mismatch, doesn't it?
Yeah, on paper it looks a complete mismatch. Obviously, Toulouse have had week off. With them, I'd say not playing in Challenge Cup. They didn't even enter Challenge Cup. But that's a different story. Yeah, I think also like we Warrington, they'll be wanting a bounce back, and they'll be also wanting to get that win to keep that momentum in league. And obviously, I know that Warrington and KR have still got that game in hand, and they won't want to scup at the points difference so earlier on in season, and they'll want to keep that game in hand, which could come crucial later on in year whenever that game's rearranged. So yeah, I think that looking at the two sides, back to your original point, I do think it is an absolute mismatch, and I can't see anything but a wire win.
Well, exactly. Let's try and pick out a couple of key contests. I think this is a key contest. I thought, Joe Cater last time out at FC against his former club had real impetus. He had a great game at loose forward, did Joe Cater. Can he back it up, though? That's the question. Played 8 times this season for Toulouse, scored a try, 13 busts, 191 tackles in day, 102 carries for 673 metres. And I think it goes to show how well Cater's playing because, Ben Curry's had a lot of flowers. He was on the bench in our team in the month back in April. It was actually in March. He's in our team in the month as 13 for the month of April. That's how well Curry's playing. 9 appearances, 3 tries. But again, when you get into the stats at the bottom, Curry's tackling more, which is quite surprising when you consider how much that Toulouse are having to do. Benny's really stepping up in D. Pretty similar in terms of tackle bust. Carries slightly more for Benny, but again, not an awful lot. Just over 100 metres difference. 798 for Ben, 673, like I said, for Joe Cater. And I think when, Joe Cater is one of those players that since he left FC, he's probably been forgotten about, in his younger years. He was touted as going to be a real staunch player. If he can replicate the form, certainly that performance against FC, he's in good form, the lad. And when you, like I say, you look at that stat side by side against Curry, who's getting a lot of plaudits at the moment. It shows how well Cater's playing.
Yeah, I think Cater were a very good pickup for Toulouse. He's been very unlucky with injuries over the last couple of seasons, and then obviously that's why I think FC let him go originally. But yeah, he definitely you could. You said, Dave, whenever a player returns against their old club, they either have a storm or they either have a night to forget. And he played very well against FC, and like you say, he's definitely one of the shining lights in a very disrupted Toulouse squad at the moment. I think, like you say, you only had to compare the two squads side by side, and they're very, very mismatched. But yeah, I'm hoping that Cater has a good game and can stand up and be proud. But yeah, I just feel like your matchup that you've put him against there with Ben Curry. Ben Curry's had a stormer of a season. I think putting Curry at 13 is a bit of a masterstroke. I think he's probably rediscovered. He's probably in his best form for Wire, in my opinion. I think that it's give him that little bit of a not a free role, but he's not stuck in that second row out wide. With him being at 13, he can be in that middle, and he can pivot and move, and he can link up with Danny Walker, and obviously we all know how good Danny Walker is at Wire. So yeah, I think, like I say, I think you've picked a good matchup there with 13s.
Yeah, and I think the other one which I've picked up out of this one, this could be very interesting. Is the duel between Mathieu Jassom and James Bentley. James Bentley very lucky not to get yellow in that semi-final. We know James has got a bit of a temper in him, and a bit, his temperament at times comes in to question. But he's coming up against a player that was in our team in the month of April. A player that, again, people who don't care about Toulouse and don't watch every game of Super League, so or may only see highlights, will not appreciate how well Mathieu Jassom is playing this season. 10 appearances, 5 tries, 2 assists, 33 tackle busts, 335 tackles, both sides of the ball, brilliant. 103 carries for 706 metres. Of course, there's a big difference in terms of appearances there. James Bentley's only had 4 appearances, hence why it does look one-sided. When you break it down on a pro rata basis, it is a lot closer. But Bentley's got his hands full here. Really, for me, he's got his hands full, and it's going to be a real test in terms of how he comes out on the other side. Because if he feels that he's being suppressed and overrun by Jassom, it'll be interesting to see how James Bentley responds to that.
Yeah, I think James Bentley is one of them players that when he's played at clubs like St Helens, we're glad he's gone, we don't want him. Same with Leeds, we're glad he's gone, we don't want him. But then when he were in their team, they were loving him. Yeah, he plays on edge. Yeah, he's a bit of a firecracker. I like him, me personally. Every team needs a bit of a thug, and he actually gives Warrington that. I mean, obviously you have got Klepi Tanginoa that can rotate with him, and like you said, if them stats, yes, they're very one-sided, but on a pro rata basis, when you break it down, they're not actually that far apart. And I actually think that in this game, I think that Bentley will be like cream. He'll rise to the top, and I think he'll have a stormer of a game.
Yeah, it'd be a fascinating one. Of course, the problem that Jassom's got is he's taking 2 second rows on, because we know at some point Klepi Tanginoa will be brought on. Whereas Jassom tends to do the full 80. Warrington, of course, will be bringing probably off the bench a very fresh Klepi Tanginoa, and that in itself is a handful. Right, okay, let's get to the prediction. What are you going with this one? Toulouse, Warrington, where's it going by how many?
Well, I think you only know that I'm going to back one team on this, seeing as though I am anti-French teams. It'll be Wire, and if you want in a scoreline, I'm going to say 22.
22. I've gone 16. I think from a Warrington perspective, they need 2, maybe it has to be a minimum 2 to 3 tries. I think it has to be that. I don't think they'd lose much sleep if it wasn't as big a scores as the likes of KR and Wigan have put on them at home. But I think bouncing back from a disappointing performance against KR, the bottom line is KR blew them away, let's be crystal. They'll want a response. They'll just want the 2 points and get back on the horse. That'll be the key thing for Warrington this week. Hence why I'm going 16 for Warrington. We'll check back in on the prediction league next week and the fantasy league. Don't forget, if you're in the fantasy league, you need to get your transfers done and pronto. Join the Super League Raw Fantasy League. Get involved with us. Of course, great prizes for the members at the end of the season. All details you need on becoming a member are at the website superleagueraw.com. Right, we move on to this beauty. What a game this one could be. Before we do, actually, it was a be amiss of me not to say Joe Breverton, if he plays at the weekend, 150 career appearances for him and 150 Super League appearances for Liam Byrne. Right, over to this one. Leigh against Hull KR. I had the privilege of being there last year. It was an absolutely baking hot day. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. And you'll remember it was the Leigh Leopards who got a win the week before KR, of course, succumbed to the Leeds Rhinos. So it was a back-to-back defeat that day for KR. But if you remember, it was the game, Simo, where Mikey Lewis went down. There was no HIA, but because of the length of time he stayed down, he, through HIA protocols, missed the league game. If you remember, it was that controversy at the time that meant that he couldn't play against Leigh, and consequently, of course, was a factor surely in why KR that day didn't beat the Leopards. That's the Leopards that day. You remember the Ethan O'Neill try where he plucked it out the air. One of Charlie's tries was an absolute peach as well. Leigh were very, very good. These two teams, like I said in the promo, both like to be expansive, both likes to play attractive, free-flowing attacking rugby league. This one, for me, is going to be a belter on Saturday.
Yeah, there's quite a few matchups in this. I listened to Adrian Lamb's presser, and I also listened to Willie Peters' presser, and both coaches were very respectable of the opposition this weekend. They were very complimentary of each other. They were both mentioned about wanting to take momentum into league. Obviously, it's a shorter turnaround for Hull KR, as obviously they competed in Challenge Cup last weekend, and Leigh have had week off. So yeah, could this help or hinder? Could you know what I mean? This could be it could be Leigh's saving grace that they've not competed in Challenge Cup. They've got bodies back. I've looked at the squads today, which I know we'll get on to. But then could this help? And just like that, you've brought squads up. But yeah, could this help KR by them playing last in Challenge Cup? Obviously they've not had a break, so yeah, it's going to be a mouth-watering clash, and this could be one of the games of the round. But then we could say that about the next 2 or 3 games we're going to discuss as well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think the break from a Leigh perspective has probably been a good thing. I think the likes of Pape has probably been carrying a knot. We know Jamal Hanley and Tessinu have only just come back. David Armstrong, I would expect to play this Saturday. I think this is the game that he'll probably get more minutes and start the game for the Leopards this week. Joe Offengary's been doing big minutes and probably would have been grateful for that week off. Ellis Senior, of course, and Josh Charlie have been really strong on the wings for them. They're both there. Owen Trout as well. There's quality in that lead team. It's starting to look something like now the starting 17 for them. The interesting thing for me where KR are concerned, I mean, you look there, it pretty much is. I mean, you've got to go all the way down to squad number 12 before you start to see a gap in their team. And of course, that's James Baxter, who will be missing through HIA. Through his HIA protocols, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, they've stood him down. They've stood him down. Yeah.
So that's the first one that's missing, and then it picks back up again at 13, and it goes all the way through, and then I think it's number 22. Like I say, they're in great shape. KR, great shape. I think before we get into any key tussles here between the two, I think if Arthur Morg is going to play at Wembley, he probably needs to play the next 2. That's my humble opinion on this. It's going to be interesting to see what Wigan and KR do next week, the week before the final. But we'll deal with that in Captain's Run next week. But Arthur Morg is back. Now, I really feel for Jack Broadbent. I don't know about you. He missed out on the Challenge Cup final last year. He has been exemplary in Arthur Morg's absence. Should Morg have to fight his way back?
Very, very good question, Dave. I think out of the next 2 games for me, I think he's got to at least play one, or he plays both, but they're all with Broadbent on the bench or Morg on the bench, and they rotate him on and off. Bit similar to what St Helens have been doing with Jack Wellesby. It's a bit of a selection dilemma for Willie Peters, but then this game screams selection dilemma of the fullbacks. So you've also got with Lee, and they said Centurions. Then with Leigh Leopards, you've got Davy Armstrong. You've also got Bailey Hodgson in 21, which is coming back, and you've got Gaz O'Brien. So Lee have got 3 fullback conundrums, whereas KR have got 2. So yeah, it's going to be a interesting match day 17 when the squads get announced pre-game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think I'd be amazed if it's not Armstrong. Armstrong starts for me. The question then is, you've got to feel for Gareth O'Brien. I mean, there was a big question that, when Armstrong returned, with Adam Cook's form being a bit indifferent in the opening stage of the season, will Gareth O'Brien go back into the halves and Cook come out, which again would be a hell of a statement from Adrian Lamb to do that to one of your big Aussie signings. So again, he's just got some big, because again, I talk about Broadbent for KR, it's exactly the same with Gareth O'Brien. Gareth O'Brien has been exemplary, arguably one of the best players, if not their best. I mean, Frankie Alton will give him a run for his money on this one and off in Gowie, but he's right up there in terms of their best performer of the season, pound for pound this year, Gareth O'Brien. And if Gareth O'Brien suddenly finds himself on the outskirts of the league, and look, he'll appreciate that. He's at the twilight of his career. He knows he's a squad player. But, taking all that aside, does he deserve to come out of the team? Absolutely not. And it's the same that could be said for Broadbent.
Yeah, I think what's saved Adam Cook at 6 is the last time Lee were out was probably Adam Cook's best performance in a Lee shirt. Now, Adrian Lamb said as much in his presser, so I think that. Yeah, I think Armstrong will play fullback, and I think Cook and Lamb will be 6 and 7. So whether they're all with O'Brien on the bench, and they use him, and Liam Orn makes way for him off the bench, and to make way for O'Brien, so then O'Brien can either slot in at 9 or if Armstrong pulls up. But then also you've got Bailey Hodgson to take into consideration. So yeah, it's going to be very curious. I'm very curious to see Adrian Lamb's selection on the day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about O'Brien and Bailey Hodgson, I mean, again, not that I expect him to do this, but I think with Armstrong only just coming back, he will want cover. Now, that cover could either come off the bench, in the fact that, you've got the likes of O'Brien sitting there on the bench just for a few weeks until he's confident that Armstrong's injury problems are behind him and there's no major issue there. He could decide, though, which I think would be, and this is nonsense, it's nonsense what I'm about to say because he's playing too well, but it is an option for him. He could decide to put Hodgson on the wing instead of Charlie, which is a big call because Josh is playing so well. Because what that then gives is that, again, that flexibility that should there be a problem at fullback, he's got that option with Hodgson there as well. But again, the problem then would be who slots out. I mean, of course, it could be that Hanley could slot out, etc. But I would probably expect it's going to be O'Brien sitting on the bench as cover, certainly for the next few weeks, until he's absolutely certain that David Armstrong is up to speed and good to go. As for KR, they're looking every inch the team now that they were last year. They're right up to speed. They're scoring for fun. It's going to be interesting. Some fascinating statistics going into this game. In the last 5 contests against the Leigh Leopards, KR have scored 17 tries with 11 different try scorers, which is unbelievable. That's unbelievable. 17 tries, but 11 different try scorers. In the last 5 games, Leigh have failed to score in 3 occasions. They've been nilled 3 times in the last five games against KR, which is unbelievable. The average score currently across the 5 games is 20 points to 8 KR. So, like I say, Leigh fans will acknowledge they are going to have to be at their flawless best. And then it might even take KR to be slightly off, because if KR are at their flawless best, and Leah, as a neutral, were in for a great game, but I would probably suggest that KR could edge that if they were both at 100%, which very seldom you see in a game, but we could be in for a belter. Right, let's get into a couple of key head-to-heads. I'm not going to apologise for this. 2025 Player of the Year contenders, and they were, Lachlan Lamb, Goldthorpe, of course, and Mikey Lewis was absolutely in contention again. It's fair to say, again, they both got off to reasonable starts, but Mikey, without doubt, at the moment, is shining yet again. Mikey Lewis, for the last 3 seasons, his statistics are just ridiculous. Absolutely. Love the lad or hate the lad. He's a hell of a rugby league player. 9 appearances, 10 tries, 8 assists, 47 tackle busts, 11 clean breaks, 146 carries, 934 metres. He's just showing no signs of slowing down. He's probably been one of the most consistent players over the past 3 years, if not the most consistent, Simmer.
Yeah, he's Marmite, innit? You either love him or hate him. There's no in between with Mikey Lewis. I think he's a quality player. And I think what it's very hard with Mikey. I think sometimes, like, when you get a little bit of a name for yourself, it's very hard to shake that moniker of your X or Y or Z. But yeah, over the last 2, 3, 4, even 4, 5 years, he's been consistent. He gets his work done. You look at his carries there and his busts and his assists and his tries. It's all good numbers, and you can't take away from stats, Dave.
Well, you can, but if you actually, and again, this is, what we do here. So you've been around long enough to know, watching us and being a part of the community, mate, to know that we always get into the detail. And I think what's really interesting, and again, you say that stats don't lie. He's been very ineffective in the games that they've lost. You look at the York Knights, didn't score, didn't make an assist, didn't do a single tackle. But so when you're looking at those stats, against York Knights, he came up blank in some of those key stats. Against the Rhinos, no tries, no assists, only 2 tackle balls. Ran the ball 11 times for 39 metres. Well down on the stats. You then go to the Dragons when they lost at the Dragons. No tries, no assists, 3 tackle busts, only 76 metres from 15 carries. And look, there's reasons for that. Halfbacks need their team to be on the front foot. And in all of those games, perhaps with the exception of York was just in the grind, and maybe KR took them too light. Who knows what happened that day, and congratulations to York. But certainly against Catalans and certainly against Leeds at Vegas, they were bullied. And because the other team was so much on top, Mikey couldn't shine. Mikey needs that middle unit, Jez Litton, creating space for him to allow him to do the work. So, people often say, how do you nullify Mikey Lewis? You nullify Mikey Lewis by winning the middle battle.
Yeah, you're completely right. With Mikey Lewis, he's a class player, but you're completely right. So you forwards lay your platform for your halfbacks to dictate how many your backs score by. So if Leigh can get on front foot down middle at field, then this could be quite a closer game than it actually needs to be. But I think that looking at the squads, and I think momentum's a massive thing for me in sport, and I think that this week off has it's helped Leigh, but I think it may hinder him as well. And I think that KR will carry on their good form and get the victory over at the Leopards Den, unless Uncle Derek decides to set a load of smoke bombs off and it gets in all KR players' eyes and whatever else. But we don't know what Derek's got up his sleeve, do we? He's a very unique character, bless him.
Well, it'll be very entertaining. It's the greatest show after all. I mean, Lachlan Lamb, 10 appearances this season, been an ever-present. And again, there's been parts this season where exactly what I just said about Mikey. I think the reason Lamb, let's not forget how many assists Lamb got last year. He's got 6 again this year. Lachie Lamb is playing well, but he's playing well in a team that has been up against it. And I think that now we're starting to see players going back. I know they're still missing Robbie Mullen, which is a big, big loss for them. But, what we do know is that if Lachie Lamb is given the service, again, that middle unit battle, if that is working well for him, we know that Lockie Lamb can go on the front foot and get a job done. There's a contest, mate, in this that, for me, they should build the game around. And it's the past versus the present. I think it's outstanding. And, the past that is Tom Amon at Leigh, taking on the present that is Joe Offren and Gowie. And I think that this on the day could be fireworks. It really could. Of course, you've got to feel for Tom Amon last year when he went and played Leigh for Castleford, because, of course, he got injured, which was absolutely catastrophic. But here we go. I mean, these two players are having great seasons. We are seeing the Tom Amon of the Leigh Leopards era. Castleford didn't get to see that. KRR, we're seeing Tom Amon really putting in the shift this year. Offingowie's played 7 times, Amon's played 9. Offengowie scored a try, Amon 2. The busts, 14 for Offengowie, 13 for Tom Amon. Tackles, more for Amon, interesting, 193 with a 97% efficiency. That's incredible. When you consider the work that Amon does, and he's that's some engine for a prop forward to have a 97% efficiency. Incredible. Offengowie, 161 tackles, 89% efficiency. But we've got to remember Offengowie has had to compensate for the lack of a Mulhern, etc. He's doing a lot more minutes, a lot more work. So that'll have an impact on that. Tom Amon's being interchanged probably and allows him to be a bit more effective. Still very impressive, though. 95 carries for Offengowie for 674 metres, 104 carries for Amon, 713. Like I say, Simo, if you want a narrative, the battle of the big bruisers down the middle, the past against the present, the hero that was Tom Amon returning to the Leopards Den to now go up against the new hero that is Joe Offengowie. This could be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, forget Uncle Derek's fireworks off the pitch. This could be fireworks on the pitch. Absolutely. I think when Tom Amon came back over from Australia, Castleford inherited probably an unfit, injured player, and I think under a good pre-season under Willie Peters and KR's structures, and you can just see how much cohesion he's got with squad. And I think you're completely right. When you look at Leigh's squad, yeah, they've been injury hit. I think Mulhern is a massive miss for Leigh. He's a quality operator. You're completely right. KR will roll the substitutions. And Joffa's had to, I think at some point, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Joffa's played 13 as well for Leigh. So obviously that could affect his tackle efficiency on that one. But yeah, it's a very, very good matchup, and it's one that I will be keen to watch this weekend.
Me too, mate. And of course, we could talk about so many different battles. And I think he's right, because this is such a big game. The battle of the halves is going to be phenomenal. I think the Ipape, we haven't even talked Ipape and Lytton. What a tussle. That's going to be 2 very good ball runners from dummy half. Like I say, if the forwards can get on the front foot, the damage that Lytton and Ipape can do. I mean, Ipape really does make the Leopards tick down the middle. So again, those are incredible. You look at what's in the back line. The likes of Frankie Holton coming up against Dean Adley and co. Right across the pitch, Tessie New going up against what side will he be on? He'll be on Iku's side, won't he?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a battle in itself. I mean, look, there's certain games that it deserves its own advertisement on Sky. I mean, imagine what you could produce, like a 45-second advertisement for what this game is going to be. I mean, it deserves its own advert, doesn't it? This game,
yeah.
Really build it up.
If only Sky had some minerals and give us a rugby league channel. I mean, there's that many Sky channels now, Dave. They'll probably end up doing a bleeding ping pong channel next year. You know what I mean? It's about time that they actually seen value in game and give us his own channel that we can actually move forward with. Who knows what will happen in future with TV deals and stuff like that? But yeah, this game, matchups alone, it deserves a lot more flowers and credit than the broadcast deals giving us. But I could go on and on. I could be spit. My camera would be filled, would be wet through from me spitting. So we'll just leave it at that for now.
Well, I mean, the thing is here, like I say, you look at what the NRL do in terms of game build-up and, the voiceovers and the action and the tries and the bit of biff and all of that. And they do it so well. I mean, I saw today a big promo for the end of the Women's Super League football on Sky. And I'm thinking, I can seldom remember watching a Sky channel and up pops this weekend in the BETFRED Super League, boom, boom, and then the tries and the action and the big hits and all the rest of it. You should be seeing them every week, where they just imprinted in your brain. If you're not a rugby league fan, you probably don't know this game is happening on Saturday, and you don't know how entertaining and big it's going to be, and it's so disappointing. We talk about how do we grow the game. Give it some marketing. The NRL do it so well. They build it up so well. A 30-second, 45-second advertisement. And you think what, from a rugby league perspective, you can pack into 45 seconds in terms of hits and tries and, that voice over the top that gives it a little bit, a little bit of spice. And then, and then there's Jez and against Pape. And, you could do so much with it, mate. So much with it, but they don't, which is disappointing.
Yeah, you've been a rugby fan for a yesteryear. I mean, look at production, boots and all. We used to have all sorts of stuff. You know what I mean? And for me, like you said, completely agree with you. We grow the sport by advertising it. As long as it's not John Wells, I'm not bothered. I'm all for it.
Unless he's got a screen. I think everybody says John Wells, his screen, that is missed, because I enjoy that. I enjoy the science of the game, and I think that I think there's a lot of people who aren't into the science of the game, and I thought that what that did is it did take people's knowledge, the counting element of the sport, how you create the overlap, how you create the edges, how it's like a game of chess at times where they do a play on tackle 3, knowing that if they do that correctly at tackle 3, followed by a tackle 4, by tackle 5, they're going to be here, and this is what's going to happen. This big. I love all of that kind of strategy stuff, and I enjoyed that, and he did that really, really well. I miss it.
I think the concept was brilliant. However, the person doing it, I think, needed to be a little bit more educated than he was. Now, for me, when he, after the game, he used to get people on like Johnny Lomax, and Johnny Lomax is the prime person post retirement. I know he's coming up to a milestone this week. Somebody like him, who's played in a pivotal position, would be absolutely brilliant for our game to do something like that screen. I just think that John Wells doing it is the wrong person, but we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that as you with your Castleford hat on. Right, KR against Leigh. Which way are you going and by how many?
KR by 16.
I've got 8. I've got half that. I think KR in great form. Great form. It's hard to back against KR. I know the Leopards fans probably will, and they'll believe. And hey, like I say, they did it last year. They can do it again. The Leopards on the day are a fine rugby league side, but so too a KR. So the safe money would be on KR, but Leigh could easily upset the apple cart. Frankie Alton, 1 appearance. He's going to make that 150 in his career. Congratulations to Frankie in this game. Tessie New will make his 100th career appearance. Josh Chandler, if he scores a try, will draw level with Gary Schofield in 21st place in the all-time British try scorers list as well. Some another milestone for Josh Charnley, perhaps. And Jai Whitbread will make his 150th career appearance as well this Saturday. Right, okay, we move on. And we move on to a game that you'll be very interested in, Simo. And that, of course, is York Knights taking on the Castleford Tigers. This one is going to be very interesting. Just going to bring you back from where we started the show in terms of the league table. Now, I'm pretty confident Simo wouldn't have expected this. I don't think many people would have expected this. But as we sit here, 10 rounds in, and yes, okay, you look at how many points they're on identical points. It's the for and against that puts the Knights in 10th. But the league table is the league table. And Simo, I doubt that you would have expected to be behind York Knights 10 rounds in.
No, I wouldn't have expected it. I wouldn't. This season has been very even, if that makes sense. I think normally at this point in season we have a couple of teams a bit higher than they normally are. Correct me if I'm wrong, York Statman, and we normally have a team or a couple of teams normally lower on less points. At the minute, we seem to have a very even spread of teams on even points, if that makes sense. Now, obviously, like you've said, both teams, York are in 10th, Cass are in 13th, both on 6 points. They both had a week off with Challenge Cup, and I think both teams probably needed week off. And I've listened to both Mark Applegarth and Ryan Carr's presser. They've obviously both got players coming back, and I think the week off will have benefited both teams. I just hope that from a Castleford perspective, the last 2 games out, we've conceded 50 points. I just hope it's not a third one.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right, and you're wrong. I mean, in terms of who's sitting top at the moment, of course, we know that the Rhinos are sitting top at this moment in time, and you know, are playing some really good rugby league at the Rhinos. There they are, sitting top of the table on 16 points, and I think that's the thing. This time last year, the team sitting top was KR, and they were on 18. So it's not a massive difference. What is different is how many are on a similar amount of points. Like this time last year, there was 4 teams on 10. There was 4 teams on 10. That was really there. It was KR were sitting top on 18, Wigan on 16, Leigh, they were on 15. Then it was Rhinos 12, 11 for FC because they'd drawn against the Leopards. And then, like I said, there was 4 teams on 10 points. You fast forward to this season, and of course, as you quite rightly say, 10 rounds in, it is suddenly a lot closer because everybody's beating each other. So it's far more compact. It's not that, you know, it's not that 2 points difference between the 2 top teams last year at this stage is now in there. What's interesting is at the bottom of the table, of course, Huddersfield have got 4. That's interesting because at this point last year, they got 2. Because it was off the magic round, and they got the first 2. So the bottom side are 2 points up on the prior year, same team, unbelievably so. But then you look at the others, like I say, 4 teams on 6 points, 3 teams on 12. So yeah, it is a lot more compact. But we've got to also remember that it's aided this year with the fact that there's more games. You know, and that you know, there's those extra games that aids in terms of the points, and it's because they're all beating each other. You know, it's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. There's been some real results this year where you've gone, how's that just happened? Huddersfield at Wigan, great case in point. York against the KR, another one, and we could go on and on. Your game against Wigan, you know, but it's great for the league. It's phenomenal for the league. It's what we want, isn't it? We want to feel like there's jeopardy every week.
Yeah, I think also as well, Dave, is there's not the loop fixtures. So with teams only playing each other once, they're not kind of like sussing each other out, where they're not playing them 1 week and then 3 weeks later they're playing them again. There's actually unless it's obviously in Cup, there's quite a bit of a difference in timescales when you're playing that team again. So it's probably a lot harder on coaches to prepare week in, week out due to not having them loop fixtures. So that could be a contributing factor to why there's a lot of teams on the same amount of points this year.
Maybe. I mean, it was interesting. I saw articles on social media this week, you know, comparing and contrasting our sport to women's rugby union and attending, you know, viewing figures. Rugby League have got to stop looking at that. They've got to just concentrate on incremental gains. And the fact of the matter was, last week in the Challenge Cup semi-finals, the attendances in the stadium were over 5,000 more supporters year on year. That's all that matters. They're your KPIs. They're your measuring sticks. How are we moving forward against our own stats? That's growth. That's real. Growing rugby league isn't comparing us to how far we are behind other sports we are. Rugby league is how we're growing. That's the true KPI.
Yeah, it's like comparing apples and pears. It's just there's no comparison. I just don't.
Well, they've both got pips.
Well, different sizes, different shapes. You know what I mean? Let's keep it PG. Let's keep it PG. But yeah, it's one of them things. It's like, why do the governing body say, oh well, ping pong's doing this and hockey's doing this? Well, I'm sorry, but we're rugby league.
Yeah,
we're his own entity. I couldn't give a stuff what's happening with women's rugby union. I couldn't care less.
No.
I'm a rugby league diehard fan. I only care about rugby league. End of.
Splendid. Right, let's take a look at the teams. And of course, the big news, and it is big news for York, is the man in the picture there, Toa Mata'afa, who for me lit up those opening rounds for York Knights. He was outstanding at fullback. I mean, this is a massive bonus for York. It really is. I think there's also, and I've not done a graphic for this, but there's a great matchup in terms of, again, past and present Sam Wood going up against Mapapalangi, which, again, what a great little tussle that one could be on the day. But yeah, there's no doubt about it for me. The fact that Mata Arthur is back, Toa, of course, is back. That's a big bonus for York in terms of go forward. They were very good last time out against Toulouse. We cannot forget that. That was an impeccable win, 38-14, very comfortably dispatching of them. So yeah, that's the main news really. If you're a York Knights fan, absolutely superb to see Toa back. Of course, in a week where it's all about next year for you with the signing of the Damien Cup, but Mapapalangi, of course, massive, mate, absolutely huge. He is your. Would it be fair to say that he's your match winner in 2026? He's where the danger lies.
Yeah, I do think Maps is probably a strike player at minute. Quickly back onto York, Dave. I know that, like I say, I listened to Mark Applegarth's presser. So Toa Mataarfa, or however you say his name, he was actually nearly featured in Saints game. And as Mark Applegarth was saying, the week off, they've managed to get Jesse D back. Foster's been cleared to play. Will Dagger's in squad. Kieran Hudson, Sam Wood, and they've also got King Vuniama and Will Robertson on loan into the match day squad. So they've got quite a few wholesale changes. And then obviously Cass's squad, we've got Lawler, Ashworth, Erst, and for first time this senior, Lewis Senior's back into the team. Obviously, same again with us having a week off. PLT, probably had a debut to forget against Hull KR last time out. So that gives him an extra week to train with us. And I think, like I said, we've got obviously Maps is in great form. Obviously, we're in your team at month, and we've obviously can hopefully try and take it to York a bit. But in Ryan Carr's presser, he did say that he's obviously got options at 9, and it could be. We've used 9 nines this year, so we've struggled at that, and obviously signing Damien Cook, who's 34, not 36. He's 34, 35 next month, coming into 2027. He will actually give us some strike, but this year we need to try and get Liam Wood back onto the field as soon as possible, to give us that distribution from ruck. I mean, you'll know Aidan Doolan. He's a quality little player. I think given an opportunity, I think Doolan could be an established Super League player.
Doolan needs games, mate. Doolan needs games, and being at Castleford not playing isn't going to help him. They either need to play him or they need to get him out on loan, because Aidan's going to need sharp game time. But yeah, I mean, he's a steady away player, and I think he just needs that tutelage and progression to get where he's capable of getting to. But yeah, I mean, you're right in terms of your nines. It's good to see Kane Robb back in the lineup. And I think some of these players that certainly the new ones, the likes of Weaver, who against Wigan I thought was exceptional, and then had an absolute diabolical game the week after, and you're like, what's going on there? Again, we've seen glimpses. I don't think Assie at the moment has set the world on fire since being at Castleford. He needs to improve. Brock Grayson has come in. I think Stimson's been steady away. I think you need Ashworth playing more because he's got genuine size, and it's something that your team lacks. And I'm hoping that George Hurst progresses and goes well as well. I notice. I know it's Jimmy Beckett's not there again, is he? Have they put Jimmy back out on loan?
I believe he's gone back out on loan. I could be wrong, but yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think Dejan Arce, he's not reached the heights expected of him when we've signed him. I think you're completely right. I think if memory serves me right, you dubbed Brock Grecian Benny Westwood. Well, I wish he'd lived up to that moniker. At minute, I think he's got a bit of a weak heart, if I'm honest. He always seems to go down a little bit, and I just hope that he can get over his little bit of injury woes, and he can knock on now. George Hurst, definitely a player there. Obviously, same again. Tyler Dupree, he was same as PLT. first week in against Hull KR, so this week off could have benefited him as well. And yeah, I think you're completely right. Doolan does need game time, and we've got Ashton Golding that'll step in as well. I could quite easily see Kane Robb not featuring and going with Golding and Doolan, my opinion.
Possible. I mean, I thought Golding against Huddersfield again, like we were saying about Cater, when they go up against the former clubs, especially clubs that they feel a bit aggrieved that they were let go, it does raise them a couple of gears. I thought he played very well in that, I have to say. Right, let's just get into the welcome backers, and like I say, Toa. I mean, this is how well he was playing. 6 appearances. He got a try, 4 assists. His all-round work was superb. Offloads 4, 21 busts, 2 breaks, 111 carries, 885 metres. He's in 6 games, 885 metres, 8 average metres a carry. He really was putting York in those early rounds on the front foot. He really was. He's a handful. He's a quality player, and I think that this really does give York a different dimension coming into this game. You've got to try and keep this guy quiet because he has got the capability of just breaking the game open.
Yeah, I think we need to nullify him early on. I'm hoping and praying that with it being his first competitive game back since his injury, that he's rusty. I'm hoping that he has a bad night at the office. I'm hoping that he has a Saturday night off, and yeah, we'll see how he gets on. But yeah, quality player. But I'm just hoping that he has a bad night at the office.
Well, we will see. And of course, but welcome back. It was only for 1 round, but George Lawler's a massive miss. I think he's your player of the season. I've always rated Lawler. Not as a prop. I think since he's gone into the back rows, I think he's been exceptional. He has, he had a good year last year. He's gone even better for me this year. I think he's been incredible. 4 tries, 291 tackles, 4 offloads, 16 busts, 4 breaks, 99 carries, 601 metres at 6 metres a carry. Lawler, for me, I don't know about it, outside looking in, I know Mapalangi's getting all the praise, and I get that. And Mapalangi's had the games he's played, he's had really good impacts. But for me, I like the middle unit. I think from a point of view of consistency across the 9 games, I will put Lawler ahead of him. I think Lawler's been in every one doing his job 9 out of 10 every week.
I agree with you like you said, the consistency of the full 9 appearances, but I'm not a massive George Lawler fan because I've always said it. He's not a prop forward, and you've just said it yourself, Dave. Like, he's a lot better for me coming off bench, or playing in second row. But the issue that Castleford have got is you've got your club captain Alex Mellor, and you've got Jordan Lane at 11 and 12, and he's not ahead of them on the team sheet. So it's a bit hard for George Lawler, in my opinion.
If I may, you say he's not ahead of them statistically and performance-wise. He's certainly ahead of Lane. I mean, I think Mellor, because he's your club captain, and I think Alex Mellor's a quality player. I think your left edge always looks better with Mellor on the field. But I'll be honest with you, at this moment in time, on form, and it's not his fault that he's having to play in prop when he's put there. That's not George Lawler's fault. He's doing the job. But for me personally, if it's a choice between Lane and Lawler in that second row spot, I know who I'm picking every day of the week.
Flip of a coin, Dave. Flip of a coin. I think one aspect of George's game that does let him down is a bit of a penalty machine. To be honest with you, at times he'll come on. He's very. He seems very James Bentley-esque. He could quite easily throw a loose arm. He quite easily give a 6 again away. And if he tidied that aspect of the game up, I completely agree. He'd be starting 13 for me every day at week. But until he sorts out his discipline and a little few snippets of his game, I'd have him on bench for me personally, coming off bench, and I'd be starting with Dupree and Tony up front.
Well, all I know is it's going to be a very, very good game of rugby league, this one. So as a little appetizer for that game at the Leigh Sports Village, I think this is an absolute little gem. Right then, come on then. Who are you going with and by what score?
I'm getting up after my night shift. I am attending, and I am going to cheer us on by 14 points, Castleford victory.
I'm going York by 10.
Shock.
And I'll tell you why I'm going York by 10. I think what we're seeing by York, when I look at, before thinking about which way I was going to go on this, the way I've looked at this is, if you look at York this season, their resilience, even in defeat, has been more impressive than Castleford's. You haven't seen York, even when they got battered at Leeds, you didn't see York do what Castleford did at Warrington. You didn't see that. They carried on playing. You know, they've played for the full 80. Regardless of the score, they continue to play. And I haven't seen that at times in terms of Castleford. If Castleford were playing every week like they did against Wigan in the second half, then you go Castleford all day long. But you just don't. I've got no confidence. You can, even as a Castleford fan, you can have no confidence in terms of Castleford's consistency over the last 2 years.
Dave, I'm nodding like Churchill the dog. Yeah, oh yes, I agree with you.
It's for that reason. For no other reason. I think personnel-wise, pretty close, very close. It looks and feels like it's going to be a really good tussle, but because of the resilience that York have shown thus far this season, I'm just giving them the edge. That's not to say that I don't think Castleford could win. They could. But if I was going to put 20 quid on today, which way I'm going, I'd have to go York, because they've shown that level of resilience. And we'll see come Saturday who is right and who is wrong. But we're poles apart on that one, my friend. We're poles apart. Right, let's get our teeth into this one. The heavyweight contest. It's an absolute peach. What a game this one's going to be. A very, very good game indeed. This one should be a belter. Wigan Warriors taking on the Leeds Rhinos. This is going to be absolutely blockbusting. I just can't wait for it. Cannot wait for this game to start. Right, let's really get the juices flowing for this beautiful game of rugby league that we're going to see on Friday night. Zach Eckersley has scored in the last 7 games that he's played. Absolutely outstanding. He's only not scored in 1 game this season. 20 tries in 14 games. That's all comps. Incredible. He is going to be directly across from the top try scorer in Super League, Maker Sevo. 19 tries in 10 games in all comps for Maker Sevo. And that's the interesting thing. Sevo is the top try scorer in Super League, but Eckersley has him. Played more games, I grant you, because of the Challenge Cup. But Eckersley is the season top try scorer at the moment, including the Challenge Cup, with 20. This, for me, incredible. Sevo, 3 hat-tricks and 4 tries. So that's 4 hat-tricks but one of those he got an extra one and got 4, which is incredible. Should we just do that one now? Let's just throw it up on the screen. This, for me, what a face-off. What a face-off this is. Incredible. Eckersley 11 tries in Super League, goes up against Sevo 17. But look at the try assist. Eckersley more all round. Sevo's a finisher being supplied by Handler. Eckersley's set up 4 this season for his teammates. Tackle bust has gone the way of Sevo 39-23. Breaks has gone the way of Sevo 18-11. Carries more from Eckersley 136-121, but both over 1,000 meters, having played 10 or 9 games respectively. Really good quality stats. This tussle down that edge, I think, is a blockbuster.
Completely agree with you. I mean, you look at stats don't lie. I think Eckersley's stats are a little bit more spread out due to the fact that he's probably played centre a couple of times, whereas obviously Sevo's just played out and out wing. So them 4 assists have probably come from when Eckersley has played centre. I think it's going to be a great matchup. I think it's going to be you score, I score, or they'll just nullify each other and neither of them will score. It could be a very entertaining game, or it could be a very boring game, because due to the quality of both teams, they could cancel each other out, if that makes sense, Dave.
It does make sense. I think Eckersley, like I say, is on a great try scoring run. He's doing really, really well. I think this is a blockbuster, an absolute quality tussle. And do you know what? From Eckersley's educational perspective on a rugby league field, to be going across the field of play to a Maker Sevo, he's going to learn so much about himself this coming weekend. Absolutely outstanding. Jake Wardle, you'll see him there. He's in the squad for the Wigan Warriors. Jake Wardle has faced Leeds 14 times in his Super League career and scored 8 tries. So a good anytime try scorer bet there in terms of Jake Wardle for this game. And of course, Harry Newman recalled because, of course, Jack Bird is going to be missing due to injury. So that's a big blow. Bird's been playing really, really well for Leeds. Expected to be back after the Challenge Cup. Of course, he will be. But yeah, I mean, both squads looking really good, fine fettle. I think, even Havard going up against Cooper Jenkins is and Tom Allroyd, that's going to be very, very interesting. I think Cam Smith's in incredible form. I really do. I think him going up against Cade Ellis is a great matchup. Right across the park, incredible game. Couple of questions before, very mindful of time, before we get to the predictions. This feels to me, Simo, like a huge game in terms of mid-season confidence. I'm laying a marker down as we go into the second half of the season. Do you have the same feel?
Completely agree. I think there's so many matchups that you could mention. You haven't even mentioned Brodie Croft and Farrimond. You know what I mean? There's so many different matchups.
Connor and Smith.
Miller and Field. We could talk. We could go from 1 to 17, and you could pit them off against each other, and it's an absolute mouth-watering clash that I am so looking forward to as a neutral.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And then the thing for me, obviously, you heard my little rant on Weekly reference the Man of Steel. But Lockie Miller at the moment is leading the Man of Steel charts. And, this is a game where a Man of Steel steps up. That's what I would say. So this is a game where if Lockie Miller is currently the best player in Super League, that as was suggested by that 5-man panel, this is the game where that is proven or not. Because this is where you earn your stripes. Lockie Miller needs to perform on Friday night.
I completely agree. Let's just say, Dave, the Man of Steel, it's more rigged than when they kept Wigan in Super League. Let's just leave it at that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It were pretty damn rigged, wasn't it? So, yeah, you rant on Weekly. If nobody's seen it, head over to YouTube and you'll see Dave being very passionate. Mr. Ellery Hanley, give your head a wobble, son.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, more rigs than the North Sea, maybe. Well, that's a bit political. Anyway, let's get into. Look, again, very mindful of time because I think it's not on the. No, it's not tonight, is it? It's not on Sky, so we've got a bit of time. We'll try and get people as close to kick-off as we possibly can. As you say, another 45-second marketing gimmick reference this game would have been very well placed. It's just got everything going for it. Wigan, we know now Wigan are close. Bevan French not there still, but they're close. They're very, very close to being as good as they can be on the field of play. Leeds have been probably the most fortunate team thus far this season in terms of injuries in Super League. And what's good is we're going to find out so much about both of them. This, for me, feels like a really big game. Nothing's decided, but in isolation, it feels like a really big game. And I, for one, cannot wait to see who comes out on the winning side of this one. Jake Connor's going to make his 250th appearance. Ash Handler, his 500th. I'll say that if he scores if he gets a try, his 500th point in Super League for Ash Handler and his 150th career appearance as well. So it could be a really big night for Ash Handler if he gets those two milestones on the same evening. Incredible. Two tries. Gets 2 tries. It's 150 for his career. 500. He would surpass his 500 for his career, which would be absolutely phenomenal. This is so tough to call. This is so tough to call. Which way are you going and by how many?
Can I phone a friend?
I won't phone Sharpie or Forfey because you'll get 2 different answers. But go on. Which way are you going?
Forfey would probably go for KR or Huddersfield, wouldn't it?
No, don't say that. You'll upset people.
Let's not. Let's go. Too many snowflakes. I think I'm going to go Leeds by 10.
Leeds by 10.
And that as a Castleford fan, that has just it's hurt me.
I'm going Wigan by 8. And that's based on what they did to St Helens at the weekend. That was a very, very polished performance from Wigan at the weekend. Very polished.
And, I mean,
if they play to that level at home, they've been there. It's exactly why everybody expected Wigan to come through that semi-final. It's just what they do.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of the 4 defeats in a row in Super League, you just had that feeling that they were going to come through that, and that's exactly what they did. Right, we now move on to this one. It could get hot under the collar. And of course, Tavanga's back, Garcia's back. Both of these are always good for a bit of biff. We know that. It could very much get hot under the collar. And again, this could be an absolute belter of a game. But I'll tell you now, Wakey fans, you know, let me just remind our Wakey fans, I think this will really surprise. I would hope that Wakey fans know this already, but there'll be non-Wakey fans who don't know this already. That prior to last season's win, of course, Wakey won convincingly in the final, in their final matchup last year. Prior to that win, 44 points to 6 in round 17, the Dragons had won 14 in a row against Wakefield. I'll say that again. The Dragons had won 14 in a row against Wakey. So it's fair to say this is a bit of a bogey team for Wakefield Trinity. That said, oh yes, he will be delighted, will Daryl Powell, to be welcoming back these 3 players. These back line that, of course, was pretty much, well, for me, was just purring at the start of the season. They were incredible. Isaiah Regana, Sefna Katimo, and Jazz Tavanga. All of them were in just sparkling form. You look there and you can see the win percentages. Vagana this season, 70% win ratio, 63% win ratio for Nicotimo, and 62%. That's in all competitions, by the way. 62% for Tavanga. To put that into context, Wakefield's win percentage this season is 61.5%. So that tells you that Wakey are a far better side with them than without them. These 3 players for me started the season so well. He will be delighted to have these back, Simo, and it could actually really tilt it in their favour.
It just pains me as a Cass fan. No, to be fair, Wakey, they've recruited well. Like I said, having week off, he's managed to get Nicotimo, like I said, the Tavanga and Vangan are back, and it's where they've been decimated. You're completely right in 11, 12 and 13 spot where all them 3 play, and I think that being back at home under bright lights of Wakey, I think he'll suit them. Obviously, Catalan are travelling over. I know that obviously if you look at the squads, Jowett and Johnstone are still missing for Wakefield. I just think that Wakey will have too much for him. I know that obviously Garcia's come back for Catalan and he's midway for Isaac Fasamalawi, who's stood out at squad for this game. So there's not much change to Catalan 21 compared to last time that they were out. So it's the same again, Dave. It's both teams have had a week off, and it's who's it going to help, who's it going to hinder, and that's the issue that we've got with the Challenge Cup quarterfinals and semi-finals. Is we'll have teams that have had weeks off, we'll have teams that will have had shorter turnarounds, and it just makes for a more interesting competition because some teams have not got that momentum that the crave in this elite sport that we know and love as Super League.
Absolutely. When you look at the personnel, if they were both on top form, we're in for an absolute belter. Because again, Catalan have got a good squad, and when they can perform well. They just don't travel well, and that's always been their Achilles heel. They do not travel well. You never know what you're going to get with the Catalan Dragons. Wakey at home have been steady away this season. I hear you where you say Jowett's not there. Absolutely get that. That's a big blow. Johnstone. But that said, I thought Myers' execution in the last game was incredible. Absolutely phenomenal against Leeds. So he carries on in that form. Yes, Johnstone is still a miss, but Myers is more than a fine deputy where that's concerned. It's going to be a belter. It's going to be a war of attrition. There's no question about that whatsoever. You then take a look at, Mike McMeekin going up against his old friend Julien Busquet. That in itself, again, friendly foes, as I've said there. 2 absolute Goliaths. Tackle efficiency, 93% Meekin, 94% Busquet. Look at, meters. Look at McMeekin's meters. That's just frightening. 111 carries, 823. It puts Busquet in the shade, 49 carries for 278. But these 2, they'll know each other's game inside out. Again, fireworks on the field. I think the three back rowers, couldn't have gone any better that for Daryl Powell. Those three coming back, that's a real boost for him. I'm going to go Wakey, and again, very similar to what I said about Cass. I've just got more confidence in Wakey. You never know with Catalan. If Catalan are on, they're on. And Doddy's shown it this season. Sexton, Staines, Lehman. I think the Lehman Smoothie duel is a belter. That's going to be interesting to see on the night. But for me, Wakey have just shown more consistency over the last 2 seasons. They're at home. They've had a break. They're bringing these players back. We know it'll be a partisan crowd. They've got a good home attendance now of Wakey Trinity. So I'm going to go Wakey. I'm going to go by 2 scores. I'm going to go by 12.
Well, for me, this is probably the worst tie at round. I mean, I'm the anti-Catalan of the Super League Raw group, and being a Cas fan, it's like trying to pick your favourite sibling, which you don't want to pick any of them, do you? So I'm going to go Trin by 18.
You're going more than me. You're saying Catalan aren't going to travel well. We'll wait and we'll see. And that, of course, brings us to tonight's game, the one that we're all waiting for tonight on the BBC iPlayer, of course, or on Super League Plus, whichever you may prefer. How on earth? Do you know what? I've not even looked. What is on BBC Two tonight? I'm going to have a quick look, actually, while you're talking. I'm just I'm intrigued to see what is on BBC Two at 8 o'clock this evening that is keeping the fine game that is rugby league off terrestrial TV. We'll have a look. But anyway, as it says there, a wounded Saint is a giant task, and it is a wounded Saint is a giant task. The squads are in for this. Let me just quickly change, because that's the one team sheet that I forgot to load up, but here they come. There you are. Their teams are in, and again, good news this for Huddersfield, Simon, and the fact that the man that's pictured there, Joe Greenwood. Greenwood for me at second row was performing really well for Huddersfield Giants, and of course he's gone down with the curse that is the injuries, and he's back tonight, and that's a big bonus for me. That they're getting a player like Greenwood back, because it gives them more options, doesn't it? And whilst I'm talking, just so that everybody knows, the great game of rugby league tonight is being forfeited for MasterChef and saving lives at sea. I'll say that again: MasterChef and saving lives at sea. Wow. Saving lives at sea is better than Super League. Brilliant. Outstanding promotion. Dear. Anyway, but yes, back to Greenwood. Good that he's back.
Yeah, so obviously I've looked at this game in quite a bit of depth. I've listened to both Liam Finn and Paul Rowley's pre-match pressers. Looking at Giants' 21-man squad, they've got Cole Geyer coming in, I think he's called, from... Is it Oldham? He's a 9. He's got a decent little bit of reputation round him, so we'll see how he goes. But they've also got, like you said, in the photo, Big Greenwood and Matty English in contention to play with... Adam Clune, Wrench and Zenon dropping out of squad this week compared to the last 21-man squad. I'm just hoping that Huddersfield can... they brought this harmonica in start of the season, Giants Unleashed, and I'm hoping that they can naturally live up to it and start unleashing the Giants. And there's no bigger giant in the squad than Mr. Greenwood, is there? So we'll have to see how they turn around. As for St Helens, they've had a short turnaround, but they've got Felt and Sirenen back into squad. Both teams, obviously, they've lost Matty Lees to season-ending injury. Same with Huddersfield. They've both lost the club captains for quite a period of time. Obviously, St Helens have lost theirs for the rest of the season. I think Clune is 14 or 16 weeks out.
Yeah, 14,
something like that.
Well, they've been down to 12 to 14.
It's something like that, isn't it? And then obviously, like I said, Paul Rowley in his pre-match presser, he's refused to underestimate Giants. He pointed out to their away win at Wigan as evidence. Now, is that a little bit of a dig back to Matty Pete after what Matty Pete said about St Helens' identity? Who knows? Just adding a bit more spice to St Helens and Wigan at Magic? Who knows? But yeah, Liam Finn in his pre-match presser, he said that he's looking forward to new coach coming in. Hopefully he's going to touch base with him on phone. He's missed him a few times over the phone. But like I said, they're going to focus on just trying to get processes right. Obviously, reality is that bottom at decision that bottom at league. He states that they've had a good 4 or 5 weeks of training, but yeah, to be fair to Huddersfield, they probably have come up against 4 or 5 teams over the last 4 or 5 weeks that have hit a bit of red hot form. Yeah, it could be a bit of a baptism of fire for new coach in charge next week, because I looked and Huddersfield have got Leeds at Leeds. So yeah, it's few tough weeks for Huddersfield.
Well, yeah, I mean, in terms of saying, I mean, and you're right, it is a. But I think the interesting thing for me where Rowley's got, where Huddersfield are concerned, when Luke Robinson departed, then came the performance at Wigan. This week, the new coach has been announced. So the danger for Saints is that we know that Huddersfield have got it in them, and they are now under the glaring watchful eye of their new coach. Will that inspire a Wigan-style performance at home against Saints? And that's probably why Paul Roller is probably a bit nervous. One, because he knows his team's coming off the back of what was a big win for Wigan Warriors at the weekend against Saints in the Challenge Cup. There's again which is unbelievable, the sitting second in Super League. But again, the social media gurus are all over it in terms of who isn't fit to wear a Red V, and even and all the rest of it. So they're incomplete. So and I'm saying it is the minority before St Helens fans start getting upset. I know it's the minority, but really, whoever those people are, wow. But he's got interesting. I mean, the good thing about the likes of Sivinen coming back is that it gives him options. It gives him options in terms of personnel. There's a part of me that thinks he'll want to allow those players that lost to Wigan the opportunity to redeem themselves. That, may be a thing. Or he doesn't, and he actually goes hard because he's got the players back to do that and drops a few. And I think, one of the players that came out at the weekend with a lot of criticism was Lewis Murphy. And we know Carl Felt will start. There's no question about that. So for me, it's either Dagnall or Murphy. And like I say, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dagnall come in. I really wouldn't. When you look down the chart there's not an awful lot in it. 6 appearances for Murphy to 7 for Dagnall, 2 tries to 3 in Dagnall's favour, 1 assist to none in Murphy's favour. Murphy 33 tackleables to 20, 6 breaks to 3. Made more errors though. That's the thing. That's the thing that the St Helens fans are concerned about where Lewis is concerned. He is making a lot of errors, double the amount of errors of Dagnall, and Dagnall's played a game more. But again, in terms of meters made, both do good work coming out of backfield. So this for me is a decision. And I think Lewis Murphy might not be playing tonight.
I could throw a curveball, Dave, and he might not even pick Felt, depending on Felt's fitness, and he could play them both and say, "Prove your worth."
If Felt is fit,
yeah, but
I think he plays.
It could go other way though, Dave, and say to both the people on the screen, play this week, prove your worth for next week, because one of you aren't playing next week. You don't know, do you? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I do think Felt will play, looking at it. I've just contradicted myself there massively, I know that. I think that he will drop Murphy.
Yeah, I do. I mean, look, it couldn't be worse this for Saints. Saints have won the last 13 games against Huddersfield. They've won the last 10 away. The last time that the Giants beat Saints at home, June 2017. I mean, that's just unbelievable as a start. It really is. The last season, I mean, the aggregate score was 98 points to 8. It's just like, again, we talk about bogey sides. Huddersfield get very little change out of the Saints. Tristan Saylor, he scored both home and away against Saints last year. If you remember, though, Joe Greenwood, the returning Joe Greenwood, was the player that scored the try at the Brewdog last year. So maybe that's a good omen for him. Who knows? Really interesting. Huddersfield have got to go again without Clune. That's a big blow. Of course, Clune was back for that Wigan game. He's missing again now. It's a big. This is a big moment for me where the likes of Ollie Russell's concerned. Ollie Russell's got to grab this now. I mean, I've been a big fan and I've been a staunch supporter of Ollie, especially since his 2022 season at Huddersfield. But he's just not sparkled. He's not maintained that level of performance. And again, he's now got another opportunity with the absence of Clune. And he's got to take it. And he's got to start being the organiser and the dictator for Huddersfield. Because Tui Lolohea, that is not his game. Tui Lolohea actually has got to learn to pass a ball, is what I would say in this. He's not going to be able to do it all his own way. But that's how I see it. Ollie Russell needs a big game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Liam Finn did actually allude to Ollie Russell in his pre-match presser, saying that he needs to take charge at team, he needs to get team round field. It's his time to shine while Mr. Clune's out of action yet again. So, yeah, you're completely right. I know that yourself and Super League Raw have sung Ollie Russell's praises, but we're in season 2026 now, and 2022 season seems a long distant memory away, and he's not really kicked on. So this is his chance to really make an impression on incoming coach as to why he should probably get a bit more game time for Giants.
Completely agree. In terms of Saints, obviously, it'd be interesting to see where Wellesby starts this week. Is what I would say. So that's always interesting when a Saints team come out. I think there's a big argument that Johnny Lomax starts 6 for me. I really do.
Completely agree. I mean, you look at Saints squad, and obviously at minute they're missing Percival and Nene McDonald. So, I mean, really left field. But could you see maybe Wellesby or Sailor, probably latter Sailor, in centres?
Or no. I think the opposite. I think it'd be Wellesby, mate. I just Sailor for me, he's undroppable at fullback.
Yeah,
he's undroppable. He's going to leave him there, and what we might start to see, which is unbelievable, but what we might start to see is what we saw with Sailor last year, where Sailor last year he was put on the wing, he was put at fullback, and they were trying to find where he needed to be. You might see a little bit of that with Jack Wellesby, and there's a lot of people calling for Wellesby to maybe be given a shot at 13. Which again, if you look at what Ben Curry's done, 2 different players. Ben's always played in the pack, but if you look at Ben Curry, you know how he's gone into a 13. He's got good hands, good feet, exactly what Wellesby's got. Would Jack want to do that level of work? I don't know, but there's a lot of talk about that as well.
I think, yeah, completely agree. So between Wellesby and Sailor, they could rotate between 1 and 13, so they could actually distribute the work between each other. And I think now the game's sped up, it could actually be a bit of a masterstroke. But the only thing that would be a bit of a detriment to St Helens would be is Joe Shorrocks has been playing 13, and Joe Shorrocks has been playing really well at 13. So it's kind of you're upheaving another player out of a position where he's done nothing really wrong, just to fit. It for me, it's a bit of a they're trying to tile a floor with mosaic tiles. They just can't quite find combination to make it look pretty.
Well, who'd have thought 4 years ago we'd be saying that? Where do you put Jack Wellesby? Unbelievable, but that is where we are. Interestingly, for me, this is I've put their veterans on the wing. This is going to be interesting. Adam Swift, of course, former Saint, going up against Kyle Felt. Felt 34, Swift 33. This season, 7 appearances for Felt, 4 for Swifty. Tries 7-2 in the way of Felt. Both have had 17 tackle busts. It's 5-4 for breaks in the favour of Felt. Both have done very similar carries, 85 and 83 in the favour of Felt. But Swift has done more metres, 609, 592. A really interesting edge battle, this one. This is an interesting thing as well. Felt only ever played against Huddersfield once and scored 2. And here's one for Adam Swift. Adam Swift, of course, former Saints. Since leaving Saints, he's faced them 10 times and scored 3 tries in 10 occasions. It's his 3rd worst scoring against a particular side, which is interesting. His 2nd worst is Salford, where he scored 6 in 16. And do you know who's his worst try scoring record is against? Simmer, any ideas?
Go on.
The team he plays for now. He played the Giants 18 times and only ever scored against them 5. So there you go. So it's his 3rd worst try return team against Saints from Adam Swift. So if you're doing an anytime try scorer tonight, interesting that one. Just thought I'd throw that in. Right, as we always do, we're about 25 minutes to kick off. No pre-production tonight, so we've got a bit longer. Get people close to this great game kicking off this evening. Of course, round number 11. But of course, we need a prediction. Which way you're going and by how? I mean, I know which way you're going, but by how many?
I'm saying same to you as well. Which way you going? By how many? I think we're both going to go St Helens, and I think if you don't go St Helens, then Yeah, there's some are wrong at your side at Pennines. I'm going St Helens by. Oh, it's a bit of a tough one actually. A bit of a tough one. Let me.
I'm just getting over the fact you said your side of the Pennines when you're on that side of the Pennines.
No, your side at Pennines.
Yeah, but yeah, I just don't know where you were going with that.
Huddersfield's no man's land, isn't it?
No. Huddersfield is definitely your side of the Pennines, mate. Go on.
We don't want them. We don't want them.
No.
I'm going to go St Helens by 18 plus.
I'm going 22 Saints is where I'm going. I'll tell you what. You stay away from Huddersfield. You're really upsetting our Huddersfield fans. Is what I would say. But anyway,
to be honest, I actually I'm happy that they've got the coach. I know he interviewed for Castleford job, and obviously we went in a different direction. I just hope he brings a big family with him, and he'll put some more fans in stands with him.
No. See, you're letting
No,
yourself
I'm only joking.
down. Yeah, but
I'm only joking. No, I'm only joking. Listen, I do hope that Huddersfield actually bounce back. I think Liam Finn is a quality English coach. He spoke very well in his presser, and I think he's very level-headed. And I hope that they keep Liam Finn and Leroy Cudjoe round club, because I think they've got the club's core values at heart. So we'll just have to see how they get on for the rest of the season.
You need to put your spade away and stop digging, is what I would say to you. As friendly fire. I think you need to put your spade away. Anyway, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Another captain's run. Outstanding stuff. Round number 11 on its way. There are predictions. If you're, of course, a part of the Super League Raw Prediction League, make sure you do those predictions. Get them in. And as a separate programme, it's not even been drawn yet. So this is ahead of schedule. But well done to those people who are going to Club Wembley, because I'm about to do some separate lives in a minute that is solely for those draws, because I didn't have a chance to do the wheel in order to put it into this show. So they already know who they are, because that video's already gone out, because it's going to precede this one. So to those people who were drawn for the Club Wembley tickets, many congratulations to you. We'll see you at Club Wembley. Of course, we're giving tickets away for Magic Weekend at Village Street as well. If you're not part of that competition, go to superleagueraw.com. On behalf of myself and on behalf of Simo, enjoy round number 11 of the Betfred Super League, and we'll be back with more Captain's Run next Thursday. Bye for now.